Hudson County View live at Uncut. I'm your host, the guy with the rhymes that are rugged and built like Schwarzenegger, John R. Hidas, and of course we're going to talk the latest and greatest in Hudson County news. So first we're going to talk a little bit about the New Jersey Supreme Court. Why? The reason being they're going to be hearing the Jersey City payroll tax case. Back in February we saw that the appellate court decided that it is constitutional. However, the Commerce Clause needs to be examined further, and they remanded that back to Hudson County Superior Court. But before the county court got a chance to hear that, the Supreme Court decided to intercede. So we're going to tell you a little bit about that. Details are a bit scarce, but there's a little more to it. So we're going to discuss that. We're also going to talk a bit about what's going on in the Mile Square City. We're going to talk about what's happening in that council at large race. We have 10 independents. Well, excuse me, we actually have 7 independents, and we have 3 running with the mayor's ticket. So we're going to tell you about a couple developments over in the Mile Square. We're also going to talk a little bit about what's happening in Secaucus, of all places. They're actually suing the New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority. They're claiming that they're owed 30% of development funding related to a transportation act. So that's a little bit complicated, but I could break it down for you, and I will later. And we're also going to talk about Weehawken, of all places. We actually see that tomorrow, their 3rd Ward Councilman, Rahul Gonzalez, will be stepping down for a new career opportunity. So obviously we don't talk about Weehawken often here, but this is certainly something notable. So we're going to get into that as well. And as always, I'm joined with a guest right to the side of me, and I will speak with her when we get back. I'm with Jersey City Board of Education candidate Natalia Ioffe, who is part of the Education Matters team. All that and maybe even a little bit more. But first, we're going to hear a word from our sponsors.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey is a fully climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer a Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
Hudson County View live at Uncut. John R. Hidas. As I just mentioned a few moments ago, today I'm joined with Jersey City Board of Education candidate Natalia Ioffe, a member of the Education Matters team. Natalia, thanks for coming in, especially on short notice. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you for having me. It's great to finally be in your studio. It looks amazing. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, yes, no problem. So, listen, obviously the Board of Education, the school district here in Jersey City, something near and dear to your heart for many years. You run a couple times as an independent, didn't go the way you would have hoped. Now you're on the Education Matters ticket back by the Jersey City Education Association. So just tell us a little bit why you wanted to give it another shot.
Absolutely. So as you know, you interviewed me in 2016 when I was a fresh green candidate, not really knowing what I'm doing, but really eager. And I was an independent then. I was an independent again in 2018. And it was a great experience each and every time. I never discourage anyone in Hudson County, especially, and a woman especially, from running an independent campaign. It's a great learning experience. It's, you still learn your ropes, and so for the future endeavors, kind of like it is right now for me, with a different level of support, every single step that I took prior to this moment counts a great deal for me. And the district is, of course, very dear to me because I'm still a parent in this district. I have 2 children in our Jersey City Public Schools. I've been a volunteer in this district for almost 8 years, so that is why I'm here. All
right, very good. So as has been the case for the past couple election cycles, you have Education Matters versus Change for Children. Now, the difference, though, this time around is we actually are having no incumbent seeking re-election. So what do you think that adds or doesn't add to the dynamic of this race?
Do you know what? I think, for the lack of using the word change again, but normally in any process, change is good, right? Different things are good. Different incoming people are good because they bring fresh thoughts, fresh energy, and my understanding is that the incumbents are running for very respectable reasons, each of their own, one due to health, another one due to, in order to focus further on education, and those are, very legitimate reasons. So it creates a natural vacancy, which is a great thing. It's an opportunity for others, as it should be in a democratic process. So if you want me to elaborate between the Jersey City Education Association versus the Change for Children,
Sure.
I'll be happy to do that. Obviously, when you're an independent candidate, you end up running alongside and against, inevitably, some kind of a machine, as we call it in Hudson County, a political machine, or an army of support, which obviously has a different level of funding than an independent candidate could possibly have, and a different level of support, boots on the ground, so to speak. So in this case, we're talking about corporations or developers in this case, which last time it was voiced, and by last time I mean 2018-19, it was voiced that the Fair New Jersey PAC or the Change for Children group were affiliated with the LaFrac Corporation. So let's assume that may still be the case, unless something has changed.
It's still the case. I got
it's still okay. There you go. So, and then on the opposite side, you have the Jersey City Teachers Union, which is the Jersey City Education Association. And for me, obviously I'm biased because I'm with the teachers. Teachers are my natural partners because as any parent volunteer in this city, they are the extension of your work, right? If you're a parent volunteer in a school, there's nothing you can do without teachers, right? It's your teachers, students, and parents. Those are the three groups that work together. And I'm very fortunate this time around that the team for the Jersey City Education Association, the team Education Matters, is actually comprised of a parent, myself, a teacher, a retired teacher from Lincoln High School, Paula Jones Watson, and a student, Yunus Mohammed Barkoush. He's a graduate of PS6, MS4, McNair Academic High School, and most recently Rutgers University as a pre-med. So in that sense, I find it wonderful because we literally represent every single aspect of our community of the Jersey City Public Schools. So if we're going to talk about the interests that may lie behind each of those machines in this case, I break it down to myself very simply. When you think of interest, even if we call it special interest, that the teachers, even as a group, as an entity, may have, their special interest comes down to a simple livelihood, right? It's jobs, security, benefits. It's livelihood that ultimately translates into the benefit of our children as well, because if we have good teachers who are secure in their work, that translates into the welfare of their students, obviously. And then on the other side, when you're looking at the corporate interests, that's where, at least to me, the questions arise as to what the interest, or what rather the expected return on investment may be when a corporation gets involved in a local school board race. So that's how I break it down to me.
Sounds like you thought about this a little bit. So
well, it's the most common sense thing that comes to mind.
Got it. All right. So look, obviously we can't talk about the Jersey City School District without talking about the school funding crisis, right? Hundreds of millions have been lost over the past few years, and that's not going to get any better by the state projections, right? I think we're close to 200 million next year. So, how do we address this? What could you do as a trustee if elected?
Well, I will tell you what I have done even as a parent volunteer, even having run unsuccessfully without necessarily being on a school board. Anyone in this district can be proactive in raising that issue, right? So even as a parent volunteer, we were able to, by we, I mean my group of parents that I was involved with, the Concerned Parents Association of PS16, and any type of fellow parent councils in this city. We've written to the Senate. We have written to Senator Sweeney of all people saying that, for example, we have the pilot monies in Jersey City, which is the payment in lieu of taxes, which is what the abated properties pay. And we were trying to inquire how can that money be shared with the schools if they aren't really tax revenue. So things like that, because my understanding is that in the past, the county schools, for example, they've managed to sue the city to get portion of those pilot revenues towards their schools, right, in addition to the regular tax revenues. So things like that. Also to continuously advocate for Jersey City public schools and students before the Senate representatives, because I feel that there's real, I don't want to say stigma if that's the right word, but there's a prejudice, I would say, on a state level when it comes to Jersey City public schools. And I feel that when the Senate looks at us as a city, all they see is the golden waterfront, but they don't see the problems that lie further in the city, which is the schools that are over 100 years old, the students that come from every which background, both financially, culturally, and so on. And those are all the nuances that have to be considered. You can't just, kind of paint us with such a broad brush just by looking at those corporations.
Understood. Natalia, thank you. Hold on. We're just going to take a quick break from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Ford made their first all-electric SUV a Mustang. Rapid acceleration, reactive handling, 300-mile range. You control how it feels and how it sounds. It knows you. It dials into your preferred settings. It has an array of driver assist technology. Cameras and sensors enhance your awareness and provide you with additional control. But it's more than cutting-edge technology. It's the spirit of it. It's a Mustang.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut. Chad Arhitis, still here with Jersey City Board of Education candidate Natalia Ioffe. So, Natalia, now, you obviously just talked about school funding. Needless to tell you, this is an election cycle across the board. You know, we have the mayor's race, we have all 9 council seats. So for a lot of people, the Board of Ed is an afterthought. And that's, of course, you know, towards the bottom of the ballot in comparison to those other offices I just mentioned. So for people that are hesitant or maybe just unsure about why they should vote for Board of Ed, what do you think are some important issues that you would encourage them to get involved this time around?
I would want everyone to be involved in a school board race. I would really beseech every resident to pay close attention to the school board race because the quality of our schools ties directly into our quality of life as a resident, even whether or not you have children, right? I've been on enough neighborhood associations, and I have a block associations. I was a part of the Greenville Neighborhood Alliance, where constantly we would bring up the conversations of, there are plenty of schools in our city, and usually the quality of life that we also care about, whether if we're a resident or a parent, that is all connected, right? If the school is great, then the quality of life around it will inevitably improve, and that is in the interest of any taxpayer. So even if people who are just concerned about their taxes, for example, I would really want them to consider why they need, why we need to support our schools, because if every single school in this city could have the level of support that it needs, if every school in this city can have an opportunity to improve to that, to the level of making a neighborhood a better place, my gosh, think of the difference. And it should really concern every single person who lives here and who votes.
Okay, so springboarding on that point, if you are elected, give me a couple priorities that go beyond school funding that you'd like to, hit the ground running with.
Oh, absolutely. So, and I'm saying this with hope that this could be possible as a trustee, because I have seen, even our current board members and through the years struggle with obtaining the level of clarity when it comes to communication, whether of the district administration with the trustees themselves, or of the district administration with the parents as a community, and even of the district administration with the teachers as a community, because especially during COVID, we've heard a lot of these kind of, struggles where people didn't know what the next step will be. I know we live in very uncertain times, and I know that every new day brings some, kind of new bombshell, if you will, whether it has to do with health or safety or politics or anything like that. But I feel that, the population of Jersey City and the population of parents in Jersey City has now changed and is now a lot more aware, and they demand a greater accountability. So my job as a trustee, I would feel, would be to bridge that communication gap to the best of my ability. I know a lot is being done already. I know that there's a parent advisory committee that's run by one of the trustees, Gina Verdabello. That's something that's been, she's filling a need of the parents to have the direct communication with the district via, in this case, the board member who's chairing this committee. So something like that is important. But I feel that there needs to be more accountability, more nuances kind of translated to the parents. I know that sometimes any management would feel like, on a need-to-know basis to preserve kind of peace, but we live in a different time. People need to know. People need to know quickly. People need to know because it's their children's, lives that are affected. And the same thing with staff. Staff needs to know, preferably, for weeks ahead, what their plan is, so that they can organize their lives as well and come to work with a peace of mind so they can focus on teaching the children. things like that. So communication, yes, communication, accountability, transparency, those, I know they're all words that constantly get brought up, but those would be my priorities, in addition to all the other things that I'm usually focusing on, which is creating a nonprofit arm for the district, focusing on the funding advocacy with the state, and so on and so forth, and preferably also strengthening the parent council groups throughout the city so that there could be equity among them, and we wouldn't just have pockets of success in some key areas.
Okay, sounds good. Now, we talked a lot about the state aspect of the funding, but let's talk about the city aspect. So, obviously, this is a highly contentious issue, especially in recent weeks. I mean, it's never been particularly friendly, but nonetheless, there's been a couple joint meetings between the council and the Board of Ed, and, we've heard some good ideas floated, but it doesn't seem like there's been a whole ton of action just yet. I mean, what would you like to see happen in that partnership in an ideal world?
I would like for those meetings to, like you said, it's a great start. But it's just a start. We have to keep on. We have to make sure that any communication, whether it's with regard to the payroll tax revenues, that there's that goes back to the clarity, transparency, and the constancy of the communication between the city structures, who in this case took the responsibility of allocating supporting funds via the payroll tax to our district, and the district who will continuously, whether it's within the allowed structures, I would say, I'm not going to just, make up as to who should communicate. I'm sure there's designated positions for that, whether it's the business administrator, for example, or the superintendent or the school board president. But those key parties should constantly press on to make sure that the clarity of communication is there with regard to how much money the district can receive from the city, what they're eligible for, when is it coming, so there's less gaps, less fear, less scrambling, so to speak. That's what I would like to see, and whether it's through consistent meetings, such as what we've seen last year, or other ways of communication, bring it on. The more communication, the better. I don't think we can go wrong with over-communicating these types of issues. So, yeah, payroll tax is a great idea because, even with a great initiatives such as the payroll tax, which is helpful, but there's constant kind of lapses, I would say, in communication. How much money are we getting? Are we getting it at all? Is it certified? Is it not certified? I don't want to see that, when our kids are at stake. Like these are too serious of issues, to kind of play with them.
Yeah, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, we'll see what the New Jersey Supreme Court does with that.
Absolutely.
But we're out of time on this. Natalia, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Very welcome. Yes, pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching, but we're not done yet. We're going to be right back after this commercial.
Panepinto Properties, Jersey City, shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces and addresses your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment, adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panepintodevelopment.com. Panepinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.
Jersey City Medical Center is healing, enhancing, and investing in Hudson County because your heart doesn't beat just for you. So get it checked. When your bones are healthy, it lifts us all. We're delivering joy daily in our Lord Abbott Maternity Wing and providing New Jersey's only NCI-designated comprehensive cancer center. We'll continue building our medical network and taking every precaution for your safety so that we can all be healthy together.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in one of our many high-rise towers. With amenities such as the on-site Newport Path, light rail, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Kohl's, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams and Acme Supermarket are just outside your front door. A health and fitness center, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. Enjoy the New York skyline from our waterfront and various parks. Manhattan is just one path stop away, or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Looking to visit? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. For more information, visit us at newportnj.com. Make lasting memories to cherish forever. It's incredible. It's you, Newport. Live like you want.
Hudson County View live at Uncut, John, Our Highness. So a couple news stories before we let you go this week. So first of all, there was a lot made about this gubernatorial debate between, of course, incumbent Phil Murphy, a Democrat, and Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli. So the thing that a lot of people in Hudson were talking about was there was a mention about Jersey City and Hoboken in relation to a question about property taxes, which then ended up transforming into a discussion that also included school funding. So let's see what the challenger had to say. Under Governor Ciattarelli, we'll have a new school funding formula that provides a flatter, more equitable distribution of state aid, will not leave any student behind. I will not leave any community behind. I will not adversely affect the quality of education. But let me tell you something else we're not going to do. We're not going to send aid to people that own million-dollar homes in places like Hoboken and Jersey City and have them pay less in property taxes than a $400,000 homeowner in Toms River, Hillsborough, and Parsippany. That's what's going on, and he knows it. Of course, talking to his opponent, Governor Murphy. So he said, again, as Murphy said many times this election cycle, that this is about, do we want to continue moving the state forward, or do we want to go backwards, as he says the state did under Republican Governor Chris Christie, his predecessor. So his response in part was, you know, the tragedy is the progress that we made in black and brown communities, especially urban communities, with the school funding that we have put to work has been overwhelmingly, but it's a job that is not yet complete. There are huge inequities that this pandemic, among other things, exposed. That flat funding formula, we already work with Toms River and Hillsborough, but you'd crush black and brown communities. Those kids who are already behind the eight ball, you put them further back. Again, this is the difference of moving forward or slipping back to the bad old days. Ciattarelli said that it was a lie that he would be doing a flat funding formula, though he hasn't given a specific outline of what he's going to be doing if he basically reintroduces or I guess redoes this whole school funding formula. But unfortunately, we didn't get to hear it at the debate because then they moved on to the next topic. But this was a good one. It was only about an hour, and a lot of people said on social media and elsewhere, this was good old-fashioned Jersey street fight. I mean, they were really going after each other. There was some pretty heavy hands being thrown. And look, if you like New Jersey politics, I think this is one putting an hour aside and watching. It was certainly very entertaining from my point of view. So with that, let's move on back to the hyperlocal stuff, and actually a rare one out of Secaucus. And this is actually a bit of a microcosm of what's been going on in Secaucus between Secaucus Mayor Michael Gonzalez and former Assembly Speaker Vincent Prado, who is now the president and CEO of the New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority. So I'll explain what I mean by that in a few moments, but the crux of the story is this. Secaucus is suing the NJSEA in an effort to force payment of fees under the Transportation Planning District Act. Now, in this lawsuit that was filed in Hudson County Superior Court on Monday, Secaucus says the Transportation Planning District Fund has been in existence since 2008, and more than $16 million has been collected by NJSEA to fund various Meadowlands projects. And in accordance with the TDP Act, at least 30% of any development fees collected in accordance with this section shall be used for transportation-related projects. So in short, Secaucus says they're owed 30% of an undisclosed number of projects that have been done under the NJSEA's watch, under their purview, I guess you could say as well, but they haven't received a penny. So we heard from Secaucus Mayor Michael Gonzalez on this, and he spoke pretty definitively, I believe. He said the act passed in 2008 and was reaffirmed in 2015, has resulted in millions of dollars of fees collected from Secaucus developers by the NJSEA, which they have unilaterally spent without any input from the town. NJSEA CEO and President Vincent Prado, with the Speaker of the Assembly and the sponsor of the legislation, he assured the municipalities in the Meadowlands District the act was designed to provide a balance by permitting the NJSEA to retain 70% of funds collected for regional priorities and earmarking 30% to be returned to the towns for transportation-related projects within the municipality. So, obviously, that's quite a bit, and interestingly, the NJSEA spokesman said they're not going to comment on pending litigation, but for those of you that aren't familiar with the bad blood between Gonzalez and Prado, this didn't happen overnight. When Prado was still in office, they often clashed on local issues in Secaucus. Prado also a Secaucus native and resident. And I think I posted one recent example in this story. They talking about the NJSEA's Meadowlands Master Plan meeting back in February. They had an almost 5-minute exchange, really traded some pretty heavy barbs. And that was actually a story by Patch, so credit to them for getting that in the midst of the pandemic last year. And that was a meeting held in person, which was why it was actually a pretty nice find. So that one I think is worth watching if you'd like a little deeper context on this. And just very briefly before we hit our last break, I want to talk about Weehawken, and we're going to talk about 3rd Ward Councilman Rahul Gonzalez. So Rahul is somebody that was elected with Mayor Richard Turner's Weehawken and U slate in 2018. That municipal election is in next May. And he announced just a couple days ago on Tuesday that he's not going to be seeking re-election. He said in a letter to the mayor and council, I've been offered a new career opportunity that I feel I must accept. Sadly, this new career opportunity will require my family and me to relocate, so we don't know exactly what the job is or where it is, but it's clear he'll be stepping down effective tomorrow. So it looks like he's moving on relatively quickly here. Somebody that's been involved in the township for a couple decades, and Mayor Turner expectedly wished him well and made it a clerical point to make sure that residents are aware that his replacement will be sought immediately, since state statute requires an appointment to be made in the next 30 days. So we're going to take our final break. We'll be right back.
Jersey City Medical Center has a passion for heart health. We're Hudson County's only full-service heart hospital, with innovative technologies and premier cardiovascular physicians, a partnership with Rutgers Health, the latest technology and medical advancements, and nationally renowned care for every heart in every community. Whoever your heart beats for, our hearts beat for you. Jersey City Medical Center.
Introducing the all-new Ford Maverick. A truck for people who do stuff. And people who make stuff. People like Gabrielle Union.
I make this look good, don't I?
Who haul whatever they want to wherever they want. Like wood to build things made of wood with. And friends to get weird with. It's for long trips that the standard hybrid engine with a targeted EPA estimated city fuel economy rating of 40 miles per gallon helps with. That an 8-inch touchscreen connects with. And any trip that this interior makes more comfortable. But we'll let Gabrielle tell you all about it.
Or I could just tell them it's a Ford truck that starts at less than $20,000 MSRP.
Yep, that works too. The all-new Ford Maverick, built to defy expectations.
Hudson County View live at Uncut. John Arhitis. So got time for a couple more, so we're going to go hurry up offense. We're going to talk about the New Jersey Supreme Court review of the Jersey City payroll tax. So that's going to be coming at a date to be determined. But the Supreme Court confirmed on Monday that they would be hearing this after the appellate court remanded this to Hudson County Superior Court, and no action was immediately taken. I mean, that was back in February. And so the Supreme Court said we're going to settle this ourselves. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. So if you're not familiar with the Commerce Clause, the payroll tax applies to out-of-town employees who work in Jersey City while residents are exempt, which Matt Calley, who filed the lawsuit initially back in late 2018, argues may violate the U.S. Constitution's Commerce Clause. The court agreed to hear the residency exception aspect of the case after the Matt Calley Realty Corporation filed a petition for certification. And that's basically the long story short. I mean, there's more to the story, of course, but for time constraints, I'm going to move right on to the next thing. And we're going to talk about the Ward C Council race. You guys know that there was a very hot, I think you could call it, debate on Wednesday right here at Hudson Media Group. Pat O'Melia was moderating, but the bad blood, of course, still lingers between challenger Kevin Bigg and incumbent Rich Baggiato. Yesterday, Bigg put out a press release, and he went after Baggiato for donating $500 to a pro-Trump U.S. Senate candidate in Delaware. Baggiato, however, defended by saying he's a family member. So, quickly, we heard from Bigg, and he said, residents of Jersey City are led to believe that Councilman Baggiato's actions are motivated by sympathy towards the former president, talking about the insurrection on January 6th and talking about this donation. Councilman Baggiato said in response, that's my first cousin. He's a former Marine and a damn good person. I'd support him no matter what. That's all for now, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to tune into the Ward D debate this evening, and hopefully we'll see you then, and I'll see you next week.